Grand Canyon, rim to river to rim in a day, down and back about 17 miles in one day. I did the hike last weekend. It was an amazing experience. We ran to someone a couple days beforehand that said it's worth every step. And yeah, I kind of agree. It was an amazing experience. I read a bunch of TripAdvisor stuff, watched a bunch of YouTube videos before I went, and thought that I would just post a video with my general thoughts, considerations, tips, tricks, that sort of thing on the hike for anyone that's interested. If you haven't checked it out, you can check out my video of the hike itself. I'll put a link up above. If you came from that video, thanks. And again, just some thoughts on the hike. There's nothing earth-shattering or groundbreaking about this hike. It's not a complex hike. The stuff that I'm going to share here is really just very basic hiking stuff. And if you're an experienced hiker, you probably know a lot of all this, but sometimes it's nice just to hear it for the reassurance and just some general knowledge on it. If you're not that experienced of a hiker, the stuff may come in handy. I'm just going to go over some of the preparation, some of the stuff I brought. I will put links to all the stuff that I'm going to talk about here down below in the description if you want to check that out on Amazon. And so let's get into it. The hike itself is about 17 miles, 4,500 feet down, 4,500 feet back up. I took my Garmin Fenix 5, which is kind of a nice, it's nice to have a watch to kind of, that does some of that trekking stuff to kind of give you a ballpark idea of how far you are. It's kind of fun to get the stats afterwards. Did about 33,000 steps that day. I think this watch overestimated the distance a little bit because it said we went, I think, 22 miles and the trail itself is supposed to be 17. Granted, we did a little bit extra movement down at the bottom, but I'm not sure we went 22 miles, but the watch is kind of nice to have just to kind of get all the information and the stats afterwards. Preparation for this hike, I wasn't sure what to expect to some degree from the hike. It's 17 miles, it's 10 hours or so, 4,500 feet down, 4,500 feet back up. And the Grand Canyon kills people. So you need to know your limitations, you need to know your health beforehand. If you've got cardiac issues or respiratory issues or knee issues, you need to know what your limitations are. The better shape you can be in beforehand, the better that the hike is going to go for you. But I think if you were well prepared for it, it was really not that bad of a hike. It was a very manageable hike. Again, having respect for the hike in the canyon, but taking that respect into consideration, being prepared, it was really a very not that bad of a hike at all. Beforehand, I am fond of the beach body workouts. I had done Insanity Max 30, finished that a couple weeks before I went, and then I started doing some local hiking around my house, neighborhood, that sort of thing. Was hiking about 5 miles a day. Could only get maybe 100-foot elevation change, not 4,500 feet. And then I hiked the 12 flights of stairs at the hospital. Realized I probably should have done that more than once and more than a week before the trip, but oh well. But the best shape you can be in is definitely going to make the trip much more enjoyable. Have respect, take that all into consideration, but not that bad of an experience otherwise. The day of the hike, you want to start early. If it's going to be warm that day, if you're doing it in the summer, it's going to get warm, especially midday. So the sooner you can start the hike and get down to the bottom, you're not hiking as much through the main heat of the day. Kind of limit that a little bit. So we left the hotel at 4:30 in the morning. We tried to catch the 5 a.m. bus to the trailhead. Unfortunately, I left my trekking poles at the hotel. I had to go back, thankfully a short drive. So we started the trek at 5:30 a.m. The common way to do this is you go down South Kaibab and up Bright Angel, because South Kaibab is steeper, shorter, has no water, and Bright Angel, there are a bunch of places for water on the way up. So you want to start early. You want to dress appropriately. I can't believe how many inappropriately dressed people I saw on this hike. Don't wear jeans. Don't wear thick jeans especially. Don't wear tight-fitting jeans. Don't wear dressy sweaters. Don't wear all black. Bring appropriate clothing. And you obviously want to account for the weather with this. So the day we went the first weekend of May. The forecast was 40 degrees at the rim, 94 degrees down at Phantom Ranch. And it gets pretty warm pretty quickly. So I debated on how to dress, whether that be zip-off pants, shorts, how many layers on top, hats, that sort of thing. So take into account how you're going to dress. In the end, I did pants or shorts with the mesh underwear, a technical t-shirt, not this one, this is cotton, and a smart wool. And I was warm 10 minutes into it. I took my smart wool off and shorts and t-shirts the rest of the way. So, just kind of dress for what the weather's going to be. Shoes, I saw shoes from Tevas all the way up to heavy hiking boots. There was a decent amount of people wearing tennis shoes or low-cut hiking shoes. The low-cut hiking shoes, probably reasonable, I guess. There are a fair amount of places where you can twist your ankle. So I think it's better to have a little bit more support for your ankle with the higher cut hiking boots. I had my SnareMan 4D GTX 3s. I've taken them on a bunch of hike. They're a little bit heavier. Could you do this with lightweight hiking boots? You probably could, because your pack is not going to be that heavy. You don't need a ton of stuff, but make sure you have good, comfortable footwear. Hats, I brought 2 hats for the heck of it. I just brought this one hat on the trip, but while I was there, we went to the REI in Flagstaff, and I got this super lightweight hat, $22. And I wore this for part of the trip, and then I have this Outdoor Research sun hat that has a little bit bigger brim, keeps your ears and your neck a little bit more protected. I've worn this on a million hikes, and so for the heck of it, I brought 2 hats because they're both super lightweight. You want sunglasses because it's going to get bright. You want sunscreen because, again, it's going to be warm in the sun. You might even put that on twice during the day, depending on what the weather is going to be. Trekking poles, this is very much a personal preference. I am a fan of trekking poles. I like the Leikis. I think it's better to be a quadruped than a biped. When you're going downhill, these help take some weight off your feet, and when you're coming up, helps kind of pull you up a little bit. So I like the trekking poles. Some people had just the one staff type pole. Some people had no poles. Definitely a personal preference. I am a fan of the poles. I recommend them. Backpack. How much of a backpack do you need? I brought the Osprey Manta 28. I did a review on this. You can check that out. I'll put the link up above. 28-liter pack. I really probably could have done this with a 24, maybe even a little bit smaller pack. Again, this depends on when you're going. If you're going in warmer weather, you don't need to bring that much stuff. So this was plenty big. Again, probably could have done it a little bit smaller. Another thought on the pack, I'm fond of the ones of the trampoline style back, because especially if it's going to be warmer, you get a little bit more airflow going to your back. The 2 guys I went with, they had regular packs. Their backs were a little bit warmer than mine. So I really like these. I also like the ones that have the magnetic piece for the water tubing. That way you can have it right here. You can drink it a lot easier. And also I saw a bunch of people that they're hiking and their water tubing is just kind of dangling all over. I don't know, I'm kind of anal, but that would annoy me. So I like the one where you can kind of clip it to your pack like that. Speaking of water, you don't want to drink a ton of water on this trip. You're going to be hiking for 10 hours, 17, 18 miles. If it's warm, you need to bring lots of water. I brought 2 types of water containers. I brought a water bladder, 2.5 liters, and a 1-liter Nalgene bottle. Also, I brought some Noon, I don't know how you say this, tablets. I got these on Amazon. These are these tablets that come like this. 1 tablet for 16 ounces of water, so 2 per Nalgene. They just kind of effervesce. And they make the water taste a little bit better. And these have electrolytes. They have some with caffeine. There's a bunch of variations, bunch of flavors. I'll put the link below. You can check it out. But you're gonna drink a lot of water, and they make the water more enjoyable to drink. I put these in the Nalgene, and in my bladder, I did just straight water, kind of for ease of cleaning was partially my thought. On the water bladder, I am a fan of the Source water bladders. One of my subscribers turned me on to this. And the big thing I like about this is the bite valve cover here. Because when you take your pack off, a lot of times the pack might fall over and your tubing might kind of dangle on the ground. And for instance, the one that comes with the Osprey does not have a cover, and it might dangle on the ground. And after this is in the dirt, I really don't want to put this back in my mouth. So the Source bladders, the tubing comes with these caps. And so you take it off, when you're done drinking, you put it back on, and this can hit all sorts of stuff on the ground, and it works well. The tubing also comes 2 different, there's regular tubing. If you're going to go in the winter, there is insulated tubing. If you're going to go anywhere in the winter and it's below freezing, I made this mistake in Yellowstone. After you drink it, blow the water back out of the tubing, because my tubing froze in Yellowstone, and once the water is frozen in the tubing, you are out of commission with the tubing for, well, a long time. So blow the water back out, otherwise you can get the regular tubing. Also, the other thing that I like about this is when you're hiking, you can have the tubing here magnetically, it comes with a magnetic piece, as does the pack, so I like that. And you can have the water right here. It's a lot easier to just drink. You'll drink a lot more frequently if it's easier, as opposed to having to reach for your Nalgene. So I'd usually drink out of this, the plain water, as we were hiking, and then when I'd stop, I get my Nalgene out and drink the tastier water. I drank about 1 liter on the way down, 1 liter at the bottom, and probably another 3 liters on the way back up. Like I mentioned before, if you go down South Kaibab, there's no water on the way down. There's water at the bottom, there's water at Indian Garden, and at the 3 mile and mile and a half rest stop. So plenty of water on the way back up, which is why people usually go in that path. How about food? I brought a couple things. I brought some of these little energy gel things. I ate a couple of these. I can't say I felt much of a energy jolt from them, but there's some calories and some sugar. I brought a couple energy bars that were tasty. I brought a stick of salami, although I didn't eat that till the next day. You want to have salty foods. The rangers, as they're walking past you, will kind of pelt that into your head. Hey, you have salty snacks? You have salty snacks? We went to the store the night before. I got this little thing of cheese crackers and pepperoni. I ate that at Indian on the way back up, and some guy that was there said, wow, that looks really tasty. And it was really tasty at that point in the hike. We had lunch down at the bottom. There's a bunch of options you could bring for that. I brought an MRE. A lot of people don't like MREs for hiking because they say they're kind of heavy, and yeah, they're not real light, but I like the fact that there's a whole bunch of food in here. It's a bunch of calories. There's some M&Ms that I ate on the way back up. You just add a little bit of water and it cooks it. It's self-contained. You can put everything back in the pack here when you're done. It's kind of its own little trash bag. For me, this worked out well. We stopped down at the bottom for about an hour. We had lunch down there. Dave and Peter had some other stuff they brought at the store. Again, a ton of options for food. I like the MRE. I thought it worked out pretty well. Some basic trail etiquette. The people that are coming uphill have the right of way. So if you're going down and people are coming up, get off to the side. The people going uphill are working a little bit harder, so let them pass. Also, if the mules come, you want to stand on the uphill side, the wall side, because the mules have to, as the mule drivers will say, get their sure footing, and that sure footing is wherever the mule wants it to be. So I got kind of banged into the wall a little bit because the mules don't know where their butts are going. You don't want the mule to butt you off the rim of the canyon down into the canyon. So you want to stand on the uphill side. If you don't do that, the mule drivers that are coming down will point that out, say, hey, get over on the other side. Just listen to what they say. They'll make sure you're safe, but always get out of the way. The mules give them the right of the way, obviously, because they are bigger than you. What to bring on it otherwise. So you have your pack, and then you want to dress appropriately for the weather. If it's in the winter, you're going to need a couple layers. You should probably bring a medical kit. This is my hiking IFAK. I have a whole video on this that I'll post the link to. Have some moleskin, some glide, just some basic medical stuff. Like I said, you can check out the video on this. Potentially a rain shell. The day we went, it was forecasted for, like I said, 40 at the top, 90 at the bottom. There was not a cloud in the sky. I brought this. This is a super lightweight 7-ounce one from Patagonia that I kind of splurged on. I probably could have left it at the top, but the one day we were hiking in Sedona, it rained, and I left this in the car, so I brought it. It's pretty small, it's pretty lightweight. So rain shell is nice, rain pants if it's gonna rain. A headlamp, if you're going to start early, you might start before sunrise. And if by chance you get stuck down there after sunset, you're going to want some type of light. A knife or something to cut moleskin, to cut gauze, to cut your food open. Knife, scissors, that kind of thing. I brought a Leatherman juice, which worked out really well. So in the end, if you're prepared for it, it's a very manageable hike. You need to have respect for it. Don't take the hike lightly because the canyon does kill people. There are all the signs that say don't do the down and back in one day because you can get pretty sick doing it. If you start feeling dizzy, start feeling lightheaded, get off to the side, take a rest, get some water, get some food, wait for some help. So know your limitations, but if you're prepared for it, it is an amazing experience. I highly recommend doing the hike. It's very manageable. It's a very doable hike. Start early, get back early afternoon, check it out, and then maybe consider doing a rim to rim if you're lucky enough to get a night at Phantom Ranch. I'm still working on that myself. But there you go. If you have some thoughts on the trip, some other things to bring, to not bring, if you've done the hike, post some comments below. Otherwise, I'll post the links to everything I talked about. You can check that out on Amazon. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the hike if you're doing it. It's an amazing experience.